Hi, I'm Janet Zelnick. I'm going to demonstrate how to bake a pecan pie today. Traditions are the glue that hold families together, and one of our favorite Christmas traditions is having a nice big meal. Usually we have a ham dinner with all the trimmings. That would include sauerkraut and dumplings because we're Czechoslovakian. And we have lots of desserts, and I have made up to 15 pies before to feed the Zelnick clan. We love our pies. We have all different kinds of pies. We have pumpkin, chocolate raspberry crostata. We have grape pie, that's Concord grape. We have key lime pies. We have all kinds of pies, strawberry rhubarb, you name it, we've made it. So we love our pies. So I'm going to demonstrate how to make one of our favorite pies, and that's a pecan pie. And it's not any pecan pie, we call it the pecan pie. The foundation of any good pie is its crust. I like to use a Pyrex pie pan. You can use metal if you want to, but I find I have better success with a glass pie pan. So here is my never fail recipe. It is 1 cup flour, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/3 and 1 tablespoon of shortening. It's really important to cut the shortening into the flour. This is what I want it to look like when I'm done cutting in the shortening. And I use shortening. Remember, pies aren't exactly healthful, so if you're going to make a pie, use shortening. I find that that makes a much better crust than butter. And I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of cold water, and I add it along the edges, not in the center. I add 2, and then I use a fork because that helps make a flakier crust. You don't want to work the crust too much. I'm going to add another tablespoon. And you don't want anything powdery left in the bowl. Don't add it all at one time because what the weather is like determines what your pie crust will be like. If it's really humid, you won't need as much water. If it's a really dry day, you may need a little bit more water. It just depends. And when you have the heat on in your house, it's usually drier. So in the winter months, surprisingly, I have to add a little bit more water. Now it's time to roll out the dough. I sprinkle my surface with some flour. Some people like to use a mat. You can use wax paper. I've even seen people use foil if you don't want to do it directly on your counter. I don't really care. I just put it directly on my counter. And you make a loose ball. You don't want to squeeze it too hard. You make a nice loose ball. And sprinkle a little crumbs there. And then you're going to put a little flour on your rolling pin and start to roll out. Just kind of keep it shaped and just keep putting a little bit of flour on at a time. You don't want to use too much flour because then your pie crust will get really hard. Gets a hole in there like that, if you can work with Play-Doh, you can make a pie crust. You want to roll out your crust till it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. You want it even all the way around. And I'll take this and I'll measure. I will take this, it's okay, I'll fix that, and roll that, and unroll it in pie pan. So I can fix it however I want to, just press it around the edge. You're going to trim the edges like that. Just press the little pieces in there, and then I do a fluted edge like that. Now you can take your fork and make a press down edge, or you can do it however you want. And I've got my pie crust. Okay, you're gonna have to have this done in advance. You're gonna have 3 eggs, and they're gonna be slightly beaten. I'm gonna put that in a bowl, and then I've got 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Now I'm going to make the other part of the filling. Preheat your oven to 375. I'm now ready to make the syrup part of the pecan pie. so watch carefully. I'm going to turn my pan up on high. I'm going to add 1 cup of dark Caro syrup. It doesn't have to be Caro brand, it can be any brand. Out of there. Use a glass measuring cup to measure your syrup. Time you measure a liquid, you should use the glass cup to get an accurate measurement. And 3/4 cup of white sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And now we're going to mix it and then let it boil. You don't have to stir it as it boils, but I like to mix the sugar in with the syrup. It's starting to boil, and it's going to need to get to a rolling boil for 2 minutes. And this will make it so that it's not a runny pecan pie. We like it to almost be like a candy bar. But now it's starting to give me that nice boil, so I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes. Okay, now it's been boiling almost 2 minutes. I'm going to turn the timer off, turn the stove off, and bring it over here on the side. I have 3 tablespoons of butter. Do not substitute anything, use real butter. And I stir it around in there. Now I'm ready to take my syrup mixture and mix it in with the eggs. Now you don't want scrambled eggs. So what I do is, I've got my slightly beaten egg, remember, and my vanilla in here. I slowly pour it in and mix it around. So I'm heating up the egg slowly and it's mixing. I just find a fork is easier than a whisk. Sometimes this gets really thick, syrupy, and it's hard to move it around with a whisk. You get a little white stuff at the top, but that's okay. It's not going to hurt the pie. It will all cook down in the oven. You can see how many pecans I used. Since this is a 4 cup, I used about 3 cups of pecans. And now I'm going to put it in my pie pan with my unbaked pie crust. Just smooth it out like that. I will go around and I will sometimes arrange the nuts on the top. Sometimes not, it just depends on what I feel like doing to make it look nice. And when it's ready to go in the oven, I am going to put I'm going to put some aluminum foil over the top of it to keep the pie crust from burning, because it's cooked at 375. So if you don't put the aluminum foil over the top, sometimes the pie crust will get too dark before the pie is done. On there. And as I can see, it's not done. So I'm going to put it in for another 10 minutes. Got to get my other glove on. And I'm going to jiggle it. Oops, you can see it looks too runny still. And I do not like runny centers of pecan pies. So I'll just keep checking it. Right now I'm going to put it in for 10 minutes. But after that I'll do it 5 minutes at a time. Okay, the timer's gone off. After setting it for 5 minutes, I'm going to check it. Ooh, this looks done. Yep, it doesn't jiggle in the middle. So like I said, I don't like runny middles. So here you have it. The pecan pie.